Listen to me very carefully because what I'm about to tell you is the difference between having a skeleton that supports you and a heart that fails you. If you are over the age of 70 and you are dutifully taking a calcium supplement every morning because your doctor told you it would protect your bones, you are being lied to. This is not just a misunderstanding of nutrition, it is a clinical catastrophe that is playing out in the bodies of millions of seniors across the globe. You think you are building bone density. You think you are protecting yourself from a hip fracture, but in reality, you are likely doing nothing more than calcifying your internal organs, hardening your arteries, and turning your soft tissues into stone. Your bones are not getting stronger, but your heart is getting stiffer. This is the great calcium lie, and today I am going to expose the physiological mechanism that makes standard calcium advice a death sentence for the uninformed. By the end of this masterclass, you will understand the bone artery link, the tragedy of the calcium paradox, and the one specific mineral that acts as the biological director, ensuring that calcium goes into your skeleton and stays out of your heart. If you value your independence and your cardiovascular health, you cannot afford to look away. We must start with the brutal truth. Bone is a living, breathing, metabolic tissue. It is not a stick of chalk. Most people, and unfortunately most medical professionals, treat bone as if it were a static object that simply needs more raw material. They think if the bone is thinning, you just add more calcium. This is as strategically stupid as trying to fix a crumbling skyscraper by dumping more bags of cement in the lobby. Without the workers, without the blueprints, and without the heavy machinery, that cement is just a pile of useless debris that gets in the way of the elevators. In your body, that debris is the calcium that is not being absorbed by your bones. And where does it go? It goes exactly where you don't want it. It settles in your coronary arteries. It settles in your heart valves. It settles in your kidneys as stones and in your joints as painful spurs. You are essentially petrifying yourself from the inside out while your bones remain as brittle as glass. This is the calcium paradox, the phenomenon where societies with the highest calcium intake often have the highest rates of hip fractures and heart disease. To understand why this is happening, we have to look at the cellular level. Your bone health is controlled by two main types of cells: osteoblasts, which build bone, and osteoclasts, which break it down. In your younger years, these cells are in perfect balance, but after 70, that balance shifts. Your osteoblasts, the builders, become sluggish. They go on strike. Meanwhile, your osteoclasts, the demolition crew, stay active. This is why your bones thin. But the solution is not to flood the system with calcium. When you take a high-dose calcium supplement, you are creating a massive surge of calcium in your bloodstream. Your body, unable to force this calcium into the sluggish bone builders, has to find a place to put it. This is where we discuss the role of the biological director. There is a protein in your body called osteocalcin. Its job is to grab calcium from the blood and lock it into the bone matrix. But here's the catch: osteocalcin is born inactive. It is like a worker who shows up to the job site without any tools. To activate this protein, you need a specific mineral that most seniors are completely deficient in. This mineral is the director of the entire operation. Without it, the osteocalcin stays dormant, and the calcium remains in your blood, looking for an artery to clog. This director is vitamin K2, specifically the MK7 form. Most of you have heard of vitamin K1, which helps your blood clot. Vitamin K2 is different. Its entire purpose in the human body is to manage calcium distribution. It activates the osteocalcin to build bone, and it activates another protein called matrix GLA protein, or MGP. MGP is the most powerful inhibitor of arterial calcification known to science. It is the security guard that prevents calcium from entering your blood vessels. If you are taking calcium and vitamin D without vitamin K2, you are essentially opening the doors to your heart and inviting the calcium to move in. This is why I say calcium is a lie. Calcium is not the solution, it is just a passenger. Vitamin K2 is the driver, but K2 is only half of the story. To understand the full scope of the bone rebuilding protocol, we must talk about the electrical signal of the bone. Your bones require a mechanical signal to stay strong. This is called Wolff's Law. Bone grows in response to the stress placed upon it. If you are sitting in a chair all day taking calcium pills, you are giving your body the material but no reason to use it. Your body is highly efficient. It will not waste energy maintaining a skeleton that is not being challenged. This is why even a moderate walking routine is not enough after 70. You need resistance. You need to tell the osteoblasts that their job is essential. But here is the second mineral that most of you are missing, and it is the one that allows your nerves to actually signal the muscles to pull on the bone. That mineral is magnesium. Magnesium is the regulator of the calcium channel. In your cells, calcium is the on switch for contraction, and magnesium is the off switch for relaxation. If you are high in calcium and low in magnesium, which is the state of nearly every senior in the United States, your cells are in a state of constant low level on. This leads to muscle cramps, high blood pressure, and a nervous system that is perpetually fried. More importantly, magnesium is required to convert vitamin D into its active form. If you are low in magnesium, your vitamin D is useless. And if your vitamin D is useless, you cannot absorb calcium from your gut. You see how the standard advice is a house of cards? They tell you to take calcium. The calcium depletes your magnesium. The low magnesium breaks your vitamin D metabolism. The broken vitamin D metabolism prevents calcium absorption. The unabsorbed calcium clogs your heart. It is a biological disaster. I am here to tell you to stop the madness. If you want to rebuild your bones after 70, you must stop focusing on the chalk and start focusing on the signals. Let's talk about the Robert Lebone protocol. Step 1. You must stop taking isolated calcium carbonate supplements. They are the lowest quality, least absorbable form of calcium, often made from ground up limestone. Your body is not designed to digest rocks. If you must supplement calcium, it should come from whole food sources or algae based forms that include the necessary trace minerals. But for most of you, you are already getting enough calcium in your diet. It just isn't getting to your bones. Step 2. You must introduce a high dose of vitamin K2, specifically in the MK7 form. This is the director. This is the mineral that will clean out your arteries and relocate that calcium to your hips, your spine, and your jaw. Clinical trials in Japan have shown that high dose K2 can not only stop bone loss, but actually increase bone density in postmenopausal women. This is not a theory, this is established physiology. Step 3. You must saturate your system with magnesium. Most of you are deficient because our soil is depleted and our water is too clean. You need magnesium glycinate or magnesium malate to settle your nervous system and activate your vitamin D. When you have enough magnesium, your calcium channels begin to work again. Your heart can relax, your blood pressure can drop, and your bones can finally receive the signal to rebuild. Step 4. We must address the acid-base balance of your blood. This is a concept that very few doctors talk about because it involves the boring science of pH. Your blood must stay at a very tight pH of around 7.4. If your diet is high in processed grains, sugars, and industrial seed oils, your blood becomes slightly more acidic. To neutralize this acid and keep you alive, your body does something desperate. It leaches alkaline minerals from its biggest reservoir. That reservoir is your skeleton. Your body will literally dissolve your own bones to keep your blood pH stable. You are urinating your skeleton away every single day because of the bread and the sugar you eat. You can take all the calcium pills in the world, but if your blood is acidic, your body will keep pulling minerals out of your bones to compensate. You must move toward a more alkaline forming diet, which means more leafy greens, more cruciferous vegetables, and less processed trash. Now let's talk about the role of the toxic greens we discussed in the last session. Remember oxalates? If you are eating raw spinach or Swiss chard to get your bone building minerals, you are failing again. The oxalates in those greens will bind to the calcium and the magnesium in your meal, preventing them from ever entering your bloodstream. You must steam your greens. You must break down the oxalates. You must clear the path for the minerals to reach your cells. This is precision medicine. This is how you win. Let's look at the bone muscle unit. You cannot separate your bones from your muscles. They are a single functional unit. When you lose muscle, sarcopenia, your bones automatically follow. This is because the pull of the muscle on the bone is the primary signal for bone density. If your muscles are weak and deaf due to anabolic resistance, your bones have no reason to stay strong. This is why the spirulina protocol from our last masterclass is so vital for your skeleton. By rebuilding your muscle, you are creating the mechanical tension required to rebuild your bone. It is a feedback loop. Strong muscles equal strong bones. Weak muscles equal a fractured hip. There is no middle ground. Let's discuss the role of boron. Boron is a trace mineral that almost no one talks about, yet it is essential for bone health. It extends the half-life of vitamin D and estrogen in your body. For a woman over 70, estrogen is the primary protector of bone. When estrogen falls, the demolition crew, osteoclasts, goes wild. Boron helps keep whatever estrogen you have left circulating longer. It also prevents the loss of calcium and magnesium through your urine. It is the plug in the bottom of the mineral bucket. Just 3 to 6 milligrams of boron a day can significantly shift your mineral balance toward growth and away from decay. You find boron in raisins, prunes, and nuts, but most of you aren't eating enough of them to move the needle. This is where strategic supplementation becomes necessary. Now, let's talk about the lie of bone density scans, DEXA. Most of you go for a DEXA scan, and the doctor tells you your density is low, so they prescribe a bisphosphonate drug like Fosamax. These drugs are some of the most misunderstood medications in history. Here is how they work. They kill your osteoclasts. They stop the demolition crew. On an X-ray, your bones look denser because the old dead bone is not being removed, but old dead bone is brittle. It's like a building that is full of rotted wood but has been painted over. It looks solid, but if an earthquake hits, it collapses. This is why people on these drugs for long periods experience atypical femur fractures. Their bones simply snap while they are walking because the bone is dead. It is dense, but not strong. There is a massive difference between bone density and bone quality. You want bone quality, you want living, flexible, resilient bone, and you only get that through the director, vitamin K2, and mechanical stress. Let's talk about the toxic standard of care. They give you a rock to eat, calcium carbonate. They don't tell you about the driver, K2. They don't check your magnesium, and then they give you a drug that kills your bone's ability to renew itself. It is a cycle of managed decline. I am telling you to break the cycle. I am telling you that your bones can rebuild at 80 if you give them the right environment. Let's look at the role of vitamin D3. Most of you take D3, but you take it in isolation. Vitamin D3 increases the absorption of calcium from your gut. It puts more calcium into your blood. But if you don't have K2, that D3 is just helping you calcify your arteries faster. You must always pair D3 with K2. They are the inbox and the director. D3 brings the calcium into the house. K2 tells it where to sit. If you have one without the other, you have a mess. Let's talk about the inflammation bone connection. Chronic inflammation activates the osteoclasts. It tells the demolition crew to tear down the building. This is why conditions like rheumatoid arthritis or even chronic gut inflammation lead to osteoporosis. If your gut is leaky because of the seed oils and the processed grains you are eating, you are sending inflammatory signals directly to your bone marrow. Your body perceives this as a state of emergency and begins to break down bone to release minerals for the fight. You cannot have strong bones if you have a flaming gut. This is why the Robert Lee protocol starts with the elimination of the toxic modern diet. We remove the seed oils, canola, soybean, corn oil, which are highly pro-inflammatory. We replace them with extra virgin olive oil, which contains oleocanthal, a natural anti-inflammatory that mimics the effects of ibuprofen without the gut-damaging side effects. When you calm the gut, you calm the osteoclasts. When you calm the osteoclasts, the osteoblasts finally have a chance to catch up. Let's talk about the silicon factor. Silicon is another trace mineral that is essential for the collagen matrix of the bone. Think of collagen as the rebar in the concrete. Calcium is the concrete, but without the rebar, the concrete has no tensile strength. It will snap under pressure. Silicon helps the body synthesize the collagen that gives bone its flexibility. You find silicon in horsetail herb and in certain mineral waters, but most of you are missing it. A bone without silicon is a bone waiting to break. Now let's look at the 7-day bone rebuild routine. Days 1 through 3. You stop the isolated calcium rocks. You start a high-quality magnesium supplement, glycinate, at night. You will notice your sleep improves and your muscles relax. This is the first sign that your mineral balance is shifting. Days 4 through 7. You introduce vitamin K2, MK7, and vitamin D3 together with your largest meal of the day. This meal must contain healthy fats, avocado, or olive oil, because these vitamins are fat soluble. Without the fat, they are just expensive urine. By the end of the first week, your director is on the job. Your arteries are beginning to decalcify, and your bones are beginning to receive the cargo they've been waiting for. This is not a hack. This is a physiological realignment. Let's address the stiffness you feel in the morning. That stiffness is often not just your joints, it is the calcification of your ligaments. It is the calcium settling in the soft tissues because it had nowhere else to go. As you start the K2 and magnesium protocol, you will find that stiffness begins to melt away. Your body is literally de-stoning itself. You are becoming supple again. This is what it feels like when the signals are restored. Let's talk about the role of the kidneys in bone health. Your kidneys are responsible for balancing the phosphorus and the calcium in your blood. If you drink dark sodas or eat lots of processed meats, you are flooding your body with inorganic phosphorus. This phosphorus competes with calcium. To balance the high phosphorus, your body pulls calcium out of your bones. You are trading your skeleton for a soda. This is a bankrupt strategy. You must eliminate inorganic phosphates if you want to save your hips. Let's talk about the authority of your own health. For too long, you have been a passive participant in your own decline. You have followed the chalk and drug routine, and you have wondered why you feel more fragile every year. I am telling you that the power to rebuild is in your hands, but it requires you to understand the mechanisms. You must be the one to ensure the K2 is there. You must be the one to ensure the magnesium is there. You must be the one to create the mechanical load on your bones. No pill can do the work for you, but the right minerals make the work effective. Let's look at the artery bone axis one last time. In clinical medicine, we see a direct correlation. People with the most calcified arteries have the lowest bone density. It is the same problem appearing in two different places. It is a distribution error. We are not deficient in calcium, we are mismanaging it. The director is missing. The workers are on strike. The blueprints are lost. The Robert Lee protocol restores the director, wakes up the workers, and follows the biological blueprint. This is how you hit the 10,000 a month level of health, by investing in the fundamentals that others are too lazy to address. Let's talk about independence. At 70, your greatest fear is a fall that leads to a fracture. That fracture is the end of your freedom. It is the beginning of the managed decline. By following this protocol, you are not just eating better, you are defending your territory. You are ensuring that your frame is as strong at 80 as it was at 50. You are ensuring that you can still travel, still work, and still live without the fear of breaking. Let's address the milk myth. You've been told that milk builds strong bones. Milk is a growth fluid for calves. While it has calcium, it is also high in phosphorus, and in its pasteurized form, lacks the enzymes required for proper mineral absorption. Many of the countries with the highest milk consumption have the highest rates of osteoporosis. Do not rely on a carton of milk to save your skeleton. Rely on the director and the mechanical signal. Let's talk about trace minerals. Your bones are made of more than just calcium and magnesium. They need manganese, vanadium, and strontium. These are found in sea salt and real food, not in processed flour. Switch to a high-quality sea salt, Celtic or Himalayan, to provide the full spectrum of trace minerals. Every one of those tiny minerals is a cofactor for the enzymes that build your bone matrix. This is the whole system approach. Let's talk about the Robert Lee certainty. I am not here to suggest these things to you. I am here to tell you that this is how the human body works. You can argue with me, or you can argue with the biochemistry. The biochemistry doesn't care about your opinion. It only cares about the signals it receives. If you give it the egg and spinach signal, you get decline. If you give it the spirulina, K2, and magnesium signal, you get strength. It is a binary choice. Let's talk about bone quality versus bone quantity. A dense bone that is full of old calcified tissue is like a piece of dry wood. It snaps. A quality bone that is full of living collagen and mineralized matrix is like a green branch. It bends but doesn't break. You want green bones. You want the flexibility that comes from vitamin C, silicon, and vitamin K2. This is the difference between surviving a trip and falling into a life-changing injury. Let's talk about authority in your local doctor's office. The next time your doctor tells you to just take 500 milligrams of calcium, I want you to look them in the eye and ask them about their vitamin K2 and magnesium cofactors. Ask them about their plan to prevent arterial calcification. When they look at you with a blank stare, you will realize that you have become the authority. You have taken control of the strategist role. This is where the true power lies. Let's look at the long game. Rebuilding bone takes time. It is a slower process than rebuilding muscle. You must stay on this protocol for at least 6 to 12 months to see a shift on a DEXA scan. But you will feel the shift in your body much sooner. You will feel it in your energy, in your sleep, and in the suppleness of your movements. Do not get discouraged by the mainstream pace of decline. You are on a different trajectory now. You're on the Robert Lee path. Let's talk about the economic cost of health. People say that high quality food and supplements are expensive. I ask you, what is the cost of a hip replacement? What is the cost of 3 years in an assisted living facility? What is the cost of losing your ability to drive? Investing in the director and the director's minerals is the greatest financial decision you will ever make. It is the preservation of your most valuable asset, your functional independence. Let's talk about truth. The truth is uncomfortable. The truth is that you have been mismanaged for years, but the truth is also liberating. Once you know the mechanism, you can no longer be a victim of the lie. You know that calcium without K2 is a heart attack in a bottle. You know that magnesium is the master key. You know that movement is the mechanical signal. You have the knowledge. Now you must have the discipline. Let's talk about the community. We are building a movement of seniors who refuse to wither. We are the ones who understand that aging is a biological process that can be negotiated. We are the ones who prioritize physiological dominance. Join us. Follow the protocol. Take the K2. Rebuild the bone. This is Dr. Robert Lee, and I am here to give you the blueprints that others are hiding. Your bones are not a lost cause. Your heart is not a ticking bomb. You just needed the director to show up. The director is here. The plan is clear. Now get to work. I will see you on the trail, standing tall and standing strong. Listen closely because the clock is ticking on your skeletal health. If you are 70, you have already lost a significant percentage of your bone quality. But the lie told you that the damage was irreversible. I am here to tell you that the irreversible is simply the uninformed. We have discussed the director, the workers, and the mechanical load. But there is one final piece to this 4,000 word deep dive: the environmental toxin factor, lead. Most of you grew up in a world full of leaded gasoline and lead paint. That lead didn't just disappear, your body stored it in the safest place it could find: your bones. As you age and your bones begin to thin, that lead is released back into your bloodstream. This is a toxic surge that damages your kidneys and your brain. Rebuilding your bones with K2 and magnesium isn't just about strength, it's about sequestration. It's about keeping those toxins locked away so they don't destroy your mind. This is the Robert Lee level of depth. This is why we don't just take a pill. We execute a strategy. You are defending your brain by strengthening your frame. You are protecting your heart by directing your minerals. You are reclaiming your life by rejecting the lie. This is the end of the managed decline. This is the beginning of your authority. Go now. Change your breakfast, change your minerals, change your life. This is Dr. Robert Lee. Stand strong.